Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to the Irish NFL show. Another episode getting close now to the big day, Super Sunday coming up. Very warm welcome to Huge Sports NFL enthusiast, and you'll probably recognise this guy's voice from RT Radio 1 morning sports coverage or the main afternoon coverage on Sunday afternoon. Darren Frehill, man. Darren, welcome in. How are you getting on?
Lads, it's brilliant to be here, and I have to say I really admire everything you guys are doing, and there's a huge fan base of NFL in this country, as you know, and it's fantastic that you guys are tapping into it, and you know, it's been great coverage this year, and looking forward to being involved in the show with you today.
Yeah, Darren, as you said, there's this incredible following, I think, around Ireland, and we've really seen it come together this year. For people who are watching this, how did you come to have an interest in the NFL, and who do you support?
Well, first of all, Colin, my team are the New England Patriots, and I know I know a lot of people, that's the default, the Patriots, because they're doing so well, but I have a genuine connection with them, and I remember some very, very dark days, to be honest with you. So basically, I have big family connections in Boston, like a lot of Irish people have. I actually lived over there till I was about 4 or 5. I wasn't born there, but we did move there when I was very young. And so I lived there. I even came back to East Galway with an American accent, would you believe? But I was only a few months before they knocked that out of me back home near Ballinasloe. So, but I do have 3 uncles there, and all my cousins live over there all the time. And, you know, I would go back and forth to them a lot. I'm very close with a couple of my cousins. So we take in a lot of games, and probably haven't been over in the last couple of years, to be honest. But look, I'm always following them on the TV and stuff. And so that's my connection with them. I guess as well, when I was growing up, I was kind of a sports fanatic. And we were very, very poor where I'm from. We had 2 channels, that was all. And everything that was on RT you devoured. So I'm much older than any of you guys, but I don't know if you remember, like RT2 at the time used to cover a bit of American football, and like I'd be tuned in to Miles Dungan every week to get the latest or whatever. And so that was it, you know, and just love the game. Like, I just really love it, and I guess I love the sport itself, but I also love everything around it. You know, there's, as you guys probably know, like, it's much more than the game, isn't it? You know, and I just love all that. And to be honest, my cousins in America, even the weekend gone, you know, the texts are back and forth, WhatsApps, and like it's a great way to keep in touch with them as well. So that's my bit of backstory and how I got into NFL and American football and the Patriots.
Darren, like, we don't have many relations in the States, but yet we've been over to watch our teams. I'm a Giants fan. Colin and Michael are Broncos. You and Mark are in the same club. Just in terms of going to NFL games, it is such a unique experience. Very different to going to Croke Park and going to football matches here in Ireland or even in the UK. Is there anything in particular that you enjoy more so?
Yeah, I guess for me, like, it's a really social thing. Build-up's huge. I've actually said it to someone in Croke Park in fairly high authority there, that they need to get themselves over to a couple of games, and, you know, they'd learn a lot from it. You know, it's not just about match day over there. It's the build-up, like, it's days in advance. And I guess what I love is there's a great connection, you know, among the fans. You know, tailgating is a huge part of it. I have to say, like, anyone that's been involved in any class of a tailgate knows it could be the highlight of the day, you know, and it's just a great social experience, you know, cooking out, having a few beers, and you know, it's just a really nice atmosphere. And then the game day experience for me, like I've never been in a bad American football stadium, you know. And look, the one I'm probably most familiar with is Foxborough, and, you know, like, it's one of the best stadiums in the world. Now, in the wintertime, it is the coldest place in the world to be, but it's just a brilliant theatre, and it kind of reminds me almost, and if you went back into history, and, you know, the Colosseum in Rome, and, like, it's that sort of atmosphere, and the noise levels at a regular season game or playoff games, like, it just goes straight through you. And I love as well, I know the Americans, maybe people knocked them a little bit because, the razzmatazz and the hype, and it's a bit over the top. And when we're watching it here on television, we're seeing the ads. But when you're there, when those ad breaks are on, they're entertaining the crowd, the music, the dancing, it's just all part of it. And I've been really fortunate just with my job to have traveled around a bit and been at various events, and there is nothing that can compete with it. I think, for me, number one, because I'm from Galway and GAA is my background, watching my team in Croke Park will always be number one. But you know what? There's nothing that can beat this. Like, there's nothing to compare it to. It's just so unique.
Darren, I love you giving the Colosseum reference. I've often alluded to the fact that sometimes it's almost like the teams say before they enter the stadium, Ave Imperatore Moratori Ti Silatant, which is, Hail Emperor, those of us who are about to die, salute you. I mean, there's the real gladiatorial spirit. But there's one particular gladiator that's maybe should be going on in a few years, a bit more of advanced years, who's going to participate in the game on Sunday coming up. As you're a Patriots fan like I am, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, unbelievably at 43, will be in his 10th Super Bowl. But this time, he's in a Tampa Bay Bucks uniform. Now, the couch is open. As a Pats fan, if you need to confess and have some therapy about this, we can all do this together. But how does, people are conflicted on this. How do you feel about it, seeing him kind of have that success and bring the family dog Gronk down to Tampa with him as well?
Yeah, I was loving the Instagram post the other night, to be honest. It was a nice little dig. Do you know what? It's funny, like, he brought great success to the franchise over the years, over 2 decades. And I have nothing but admiration from and respect. And I've actually done a lot of, over the years, loving what he's done and his techniques and his preparations. Like, I think anyone that's kind of into that kind of, having the right mindset for whatever work you're in, you'd get something from Tom Brady. I guess once the Pats, crashed out and burned, I was actually rooting for the Browns. I know a lot of people were kind of hitching the tail on that story. I thought they're really unlucky, actually. I thought they were hard done by. Big call just for halftime in the match when they were beaten. And then when they went, I was kind of, do you know what? I'd love to see the Bills do it. And of course, they bit the dust as well in their conference final. But now that, I guess I'm only giving it real thought now. But do you know what? If Brady can pull this off, wow. I think it's probably, I tweeted the other night after the match, I think he's the greatest, American footballer ever. But I think if he pulled this off and won it, I think he will be one of the greatest sports people ever, that transcends sport. He is up there. And, we all know the stats, but there was one stat I didn't know until I was actually back and forth with my cousin in Boston on the Monday after the game. We were kind of just, having a chat about it or whatever. And I didn't realize, so 10 Super Bowls, but 5 of those will be since he's turned 37. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
You just think about it. It's nuts. It is absolutely nuts to have that sort of success when you're 37 on. I'm in my 40s now and I struggle to run up and down the 5-a-side Astro pitch. And I just think what he's done, and we saw the interview. I don't know if you guys saw the interview with his head coach after the game, and I think it was a really short interview, but I think he said a lot in it. And, so much of what they've done is down to Brady, to TB. He's just brought everything together and he's just changed the mindset of a locker room in one season. It is phenomenal. And I think, to be honest, if he pulls this one off, and I think they have it all to do in the decider, but if he pulls this off, I think it's up there with anything he did with the Patriots over the years.
And it's hard to believe, Darren, that cast your mind back to Paddy's Day last year. For all the non-Patriots fans, nobody could believe that Brady comes out and says he's leaving. And from that time until now, he's went to a new team and he's got to the biggest game of them all at 43 years old. And that just shows you how crazy and how different this league is to any other sport in the world, because you can just take a team. You can't take a county. You can't go to live, for example, like Mickey Hart's about to do and win the All Ireland. And well, who knows? As a Tyrone man, let's see what happens. But I guess even for yourself, Darren, as a Patriots fan, where do you see this next 12 months going? Because obviously you got Stafford, Wentz, and Deshaun Watson, quarterbacks sitting there, maybe readily available for a team with decent amounts of money to spend, even before the draft starts. Where do you see this team going over the next 12 months?
I think anyone that can tell you where they're going over the next 12 months is talking absolute, through their butt, to be honest, because like they were an absolute mess this year. Now I do feel a lot of sympathy for them. I think a lot of things went wrong. I think losing Brady first and foremost, and look, his time was coming to an end anyway, whatever way you look at it. So they had to start looking at contingency plans. But I think just the way it happened, like when you lose a big personality in any dressing room at any level of sport, there's going to be, there's going to leave a void, isn't it? And then, COVID came along, like pre-season, it didn't really exist for the Patriots. And I think that's when Bill Belichick does his best work, actually, because he just has this reputation for bringing in these guys, and whatever happens in that preseason, he knocks some heads together and he brings together, fringe players and, gets the most out of them. I think that was a crucial time for them. They just didn't have that. Cam came in very late. I actually felt sorry for the guy. That kind of dragged out a bit, didn't it? And then obviously losing a couple of key players through injuries and the COVID as well, a couple of guys opted out. So, if anything was to go wrong, it went wrong that year. But in terms of going forward, like nothing lasts forever. Like nothing is more sure in sport. Like it doesn't go on forever. People talk to me about the Dublin footballers and they're going to boss the All-Ireland Championship for the next 20 years. Like that's not going to happen. The Patriots were on top for 20 years, give or take. And, they weren't winning the Super Bowl every year, but they won their fair share of them. So like, I'm thinking they're going to go into a bit of a lull. But then I'm looking at Belichick, and you mentioned the quarterbacks there. I think this year or next season is going to be a bit crazy because of all the so-called guys that are going to be on the market. But I wonder will half them be on the market in the end? And I think I was talking to my cousin about Stafford, and of course they're going to put that out there because they don't want the best deal for him, aren't they? But like I'm going back to Belichick, right? He must have a plan. This is a guy who's the greatest NFL coach of all time. And there was a really good piece on The Athletic about Patrick Mahomes and how they got him on board. And it took years in the making. It's really worth looking at the Chiefs, how they kind of got him on board and they kept it in a really small circle. And, they were way down the draft pick and, they managed to trade their way up. And it was 2 or 3 years in the making. Like Belichick knows, like quarterback is the key position. He's known for years this is coming. And I'd be really surprised if he doesn't have some sort of plan in place. Does that make sense to you guys? So I think all these guys coming to, he's not going to decide, we have a void to fill. He's known this for 2 or 3 years. So I think there might be another bite on them. There might be, like, one part of me thinks, oh, this is the end, it's a rebuild. But I think he's known this is coming and he's not been sitting on his behind. He's been making a plan, and I'm kind of backing him that there must be some sort of plan there. So that's how I'm feeling about it. Does that make sense?
It does indeed, and I think anyone who tries to write off Bill Belichick would do so at their peril, because he always seems to have a scheme and a plan. And I think this year it was a reset year, get the cap in place, and let's see. It's going to be a fascinating off season and season next year. But Darren, turning to your own broadcasting career, could you maybe tell us a little bit about like how you ended up where you are now?
Yeah, so to be honest, probably like most young Irish kids, I've always been a sports fanatic. And where I'm from in East Galway, there was one sport when we were kind of growing up, it was hurling. So that would be my background. And, I played hurling, and my dream was to play for Galway growing up. And I guess kind of when I got into my teens, maybe kind of 15, 16, I realized, this is actually not going to happen. And it was a tough day to take. I think all the talent went to my younger brother, to be honest. But back then media wasn't really a thing. Like there was nothing what we're doing here today. Like we had 2 channels on the television. There was very few radio stations. But just I got one of my teachers. I was always pretty good at English, and my English teacher just took me aside and he said, "Look, you know, you can write about this stuff, or you can talk, like you've got a good command of the language." So he said, "Would you ever think of media?" And like, to be honest, then it just put a spark in my head. You know, if I can't play the game at the level I wanted to, maybe I can work at it. You know, so you know, worked hard. Went and did a course in Dublin. Went to college, and you know, I got a bit of luck when I came out of college in was 97, 98. TV3 started, and I had, you know, I'd you know, started kind of, you know, doing a bit of work, freelance work, writing a little bit on local radio, and I didn't get the job in TV3, but they called me back after, and they said, "Would you do a bit of researching?" So that's how I got in there, and I worked there for 8 years, and I had 8 amazing years there. Met some really good friends, and I was always GA, like that was my background. I always wanted to work on that, so you know, I went for a job in RTE because TV3 at the time didn't have any GAA, so I got into RTE, and you know, I've been there ever since. That was just after the Ryder Cup in 2006. I kind of started in RTE, and love every minute of it. Like, I'm just, to be honest, such a privileged position, you know, to be doing something like this full time for my job. Something that I love. Like, it's never difficult for me to get out of bed. I work on early morning radio on Morning Ireland, and you know, I just bounce out of bed. I love talking about it, and work on the weekends on the big games in Croke Park. I'm there for them, presenting Sunday Sport with my colleague and friend Jackie Hurley, who's also a big NFL fan, actually. So that's been it, and here I am today. And like, I'm really lucky as well. Like, you know, gotten to, you know, get around the world and go to big events, and you know, sure, it's every kid's dream to be, you know, if you can't play in them, very few get that opportunity, don't they, to play at that level in whatever your discipline. But you know, to work on it, it's the next best thing, big time.
Darren, I can certainly understand where you're coming from there. Like, we're only doing this show nearly 3 months now, but like the amount of guests we've had on, and it's just something that we all really enjoy. So we certainly see where you appreciate where you're coming from. In those 15, 16 years in RTE, is there one standout moment, one particular guest or that you've interviewed, or a particular sport moment that stands out above anything else?
Yeah, well, do you know what? Like, there's probably a few. Like, really fortunate. I think probably the big thing for me was, this sounds a bit silly, but like when I was a kid, when I decided I was going to get in the media, I said, do you know what? I can't play for Galway, but you know what? I'd love to work on her, you know, call home one of them winning it, you know. And Galway are sort of a team, they're good enough to disappoint all the time, so they don't win many. But when they won the hurling in 2017, like, I got very emotional, and be honest with you, that like, just to you know, to call home and to be there live, you know, presenting the show when your team wins the All Ireland, you know, it's, you know, it was something very, very special. But like, just with the NFL team, like, it was always a big thing for me to go to a Super Bowl, and I think, you know, I'd fortunate to go over there a few times a couple of years back, and like, definitely my up there with that win for Galway was, you know, seeing the Patriots win it against the Seahawks in 2015 down in Arizona, you know, and to see Brady, and like, that was a great team. That was a really good team. And I think as well, the drama of it, of how they won it, like, basically they snatched a win from the jaws of defeat in that one, like, on their own line. And I'll never forget that. That was, you know, I've been into that team since I was a kid, and to kind of see them win it, it was just such a privileged position to be in, to see them do that. And I pulled a few strokes that day as well. I had an international media accreditation, so like, you get limited access to the whole, like, you get in and you get your space in the media tribune and everything, but like, the correspondents, let's say the guys that work on this all the time, you know, they get down onto the field and the dressing room access. So to be honest, it was kind of, I pushed my luck that day, and I managed to get down to the field post match, and you know, I was outside the locker room, and you know, it was like, you know, like being in a circus, really, you know, and all these guys up close and personal. So, you know, they're my two moments. You know, I just wanted to get the American football one in, seeing as I'm here talking to you guys today.
Well, Darren, I mean, I remember that vividly as well. The biggest comeback of all time in the Super Bowl at the time, only topped by another one they did a few years later, obviously against the Falcons. But yeah, I love you sharing that experience. I've seen Wexford win an All Ireland in '96, but I haven't yet seen the Patriots live win a Super Bowl. But thank you for that. And look, Darren, it's great getting your views and your inputs on clearly the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick, and clearly the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. But, and the lads love that comment, but we've got a big game coming up. And yes, one of them is featured in it. You're a fan. You've been obviously following the season, following the playoffs, as you're saying. What's your feelings on the Super Bowl, this great matchup between the Chiefs and the Bucs, the generational gap between Brady and Mahomes? How do you see it all going, and what's your ultimate pick for the game?
It's really tough, isn't it? Like, I think it's such a tough call. There's so many different stakes. I think home advantage. I'm not sure. Like, do you guys know if this actually? I think this could be a big part of it. Actually, do you guys know? Like, is there going to be restrictions on the build-up of Super Bowl week? Like, like it's basically a tailgate for a week. Like, is there restrictions on that with COVID? I wonder, because if there is, if there's not, and that goes ahead, I think it actually could work against the Bucs, because it's just such a big distraction. Like, the whole thing comes in and takes over the city. But if there's, if that's been neutralized and taken away, that'll take a bit of pressure off them. Brady's experience, but look, the Chiefs have gone and done that. They have the most amazing young quarterback. Like, he is something special. And we like to build up this, that it's going to be the two quarterbacks. But you know what's going to happen? It's going to be defense, and who has the better defense on the day will probably win it. And it mightn't be a classic. But look, I think it's going to be a special occasion. I think this is definitely going to be Brady's last Super Bowl. I think he's done unreal. I think we saw signs in the conference final that he's fading, especially in that second half. And I actually would like. I'll be cheering him on the night, and I'd love to see him do it. But I think the Chiefs are going to do it. Just they've got a better defense, and I just think this guy, just with the experience of last year, I just think he's such a special talent. And I think I'm going with the young buck, pardon the pun, to get the job done in the Super Bowl.
Time will tell, Darren, and I think you've really summed it up well there. It's gonna be unbelievable to see what happens next Sunday, and we can't wait for it in that sense. But I think we'll all agree as well, lads. It's been great to chat to Darren and just to chat to somebody else from here and just get their opinion. And we'll definitely hit you up next year in LA, Darren, for that media accreditation as well, when we're going to get on the pitch.
Can I give you advice, actually? Right. Just on that finish of this. So it was the hardest thing ever to get the accreditation for the Super Bowl, right? And it probably took me 2 years of trying, and even the first time we got it, I still didn't get it over the line till a week or two before it, and I had the flights booked and everything. And there was the one in New York in 2015. It was the Broncos and Seattle. And anyway, it was funny. Once I got on, then it was easy. Once you were on that group, it was actually harder to get out of it. You were in. So I rode that train for about 3 seasons, and I just got all my experience in, and then a couple of young kids and stuff. And my wife kind of was saying, "Look, not sure about you traveling here every year." So, but it is so hard to get in. But if anyone, and I would say this to anyone, if you get half a chance to go and even experience it, you will not be sorry. You will not be sorry. So, but I know you guys will get there.
Darren, you were doing so well until you mentioned the Broncos losing that Super Bowl in New York.
And Darren, you didn't even mention Peter Canavan as your greatest sporting moment in 2005 or 2008 or 2003, but sure, we'll say no more. But it's been great crack, Darren, and massively appreciate it, man, and hope you enjoy the game next Sunday.